Yes, welcome into the Awesemo betting show on the Awesemo Odds channel. We appreciate you hanging with us. It's a Thursday, so Jordan is in the house producing. He's here. He didn't lose his life savings on that Dak Prescott total. Ben Ross is in the house. He never loses anything. This is just a man who keeps a machine, if you will. He's like the AI in all of these movies that's way ahead of humanity. And myself, because you need somebody else here to kind of move things along. But we always appreciate you out there. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed. Lock it up. You know the drill. We'll tell you all about that. But Rasa, we are back. And I love every day that we do this show means one thing for me. Football. That's it. We don't need to waste our time on baseball. We don't need to waste our I'm saying from a betting standpoint, right? I'm saying, like, there's no smaller stuff. We are fully inundated with football, and it happens to be, I was going to say a big one, but just a game. How about that? It happens to be a game tonight.
I love this type of game. It is certainly a game. Boy, yeah, Jags, Bengals. We're going to see. It's funny, I look at it and I just think, oh my God, two awful teams, blah, blah, blah. The Bengals are 2-1, so I don't think they're a particularly good team. But you know what? If they win tonight and they are north of a touchdown favorite, they're going to be sitting 3-1 a quarter through the season. So you can say what you want about Cincinnati. They're in a pretty good situation right now. Now, the Jaguars, I don't know if you could be in a worse situation. You lost to Houston. That's disgraceful. Trevor Lawrence looks overwhelmed. You got a defense a little, but at the same time, I don't know. This is a tough Jaguars team to say much positivity about right now.
Absolutely. And I think that just kind of speaks to where we'll begin looking at this game right away. But it's also the Thursday night strategy, right? We know that it's really difficult more often than not. It's really difficult for road teams on a short week. You add in what you just did, which is how dog shit Jacksonville is. It makes it that much more difficult. But let's be honest. We also see this. We saw this with Arizona last Sunday, Ben, where even if you're there or you're hosting, it doesn't matter. It's hard. It's super hard to get up against the Jags. It's super hard to get up against the Jets, teams like this. So when you look at Thursday night, you do have to factor in the short week, but you also have to factor in, I think, a little bit of the human element, which is, okay, we could just roll through this team. And maybe that's how things stay tight for a quarter or a half.
No doubt. I think there's two ways to look at it. Certainly a short week affects both, but at the same time, I feel like we've seen Thursday night football, some lopsided matchups stay a little closer than it seems. It seems difficult for teams to really be extra crisp. And, you get a team like Cincinnati. I think and we're going to talk about this throughout the show. I think there's a reasonable question to ask. Should they be north of a touchdown favorite against anybody? I don't know the real answer to that. I'll be honest. So even though the Jaguars are bad and they're coming in on a short week and everything is poised against them, it's still a game that could be pretty ugly. And when a game is ugly, usually if you're going to tell me one team's getting an extra touchdown and a hook, I usually lean that side. So there is a lot to break down, even though the Jaguars are very bad.
Do you still lean that side with a team like Jacksonville? Well, I just like a first half hang around I'm okay with, but Jacksonville, like Houston, if this is Houston, right, in Cincinnati tonight, I agree with you. Like, okay, 7.5, you kind of just look at this. The Jets probably not, but aren't there exceptions to the rule, like a team in Jacksonville, where maybe this line is more reflective of just how bad Jacksonville is versus how good Cincinnati can be?
There's definitely a possibility of that. I mean, it's tough because Jacksonville at times, it's the NFL. So it's not like college football where there are just teams that have no chance no matter what. Right. Like obviously Jacksonville, they were somewhat in the game against Arizona. The first couple of weeks were pretty ugly, but at the same time, I still go back to, there's a lot of parity around this league. Cincinnati at times I think can be exploited. We'll see what Jacksonville's offense can do. They need to find a running game. And I think they started that against Arizona. I want to see if it continues tonight. I may look to, and this is one of the strategies we're going to discuss, if the Jaguars go down and it balloons north of 10, I may hit them, and say, don't lose by double digits. Even if they're down, say 7-0 early, you might get plus 11.5 live, something like that. That's a pretty good number in a game that I don't think is really going to be that high scoring and potentially maybe an ugly slugfest.
Boy, you like to live dangerously.
I do.
You're putting your money on Jacksonville possibly 2 times over, pre-flop and live.
But it is dangerous. But on the same time, does it seem any less dangerous than backing Cincinnati
No.
-7.5? You know what I mean? It's like neither of these spots is going to feel too comfortable. These are two, I think, teams that have a lot of question marks, and we know Jacksonville is bad, but at the same time, sometimes I just say, you know what? That airs to kind of parity. And when you're getting parity, you want to take the points more often than not.
They've lost 18 straight dating back to last year.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, they won week 1.
Right.
And then they haven't won
in
like a year.
And yeah, new coach, new quarterback, same shit down in Jacksonville. Here's something that I'm interested in, right? And it's going to attacking this game tonight, the strategy with the game. We'll get into some player props as we always do. BetMGM is powering the show as they always do with their odds. So make sure you take advantage of what BetMGM has. A risk-free bet. Use our promo code Awesemo up to $1,000 and then bet $10 at BetMGM. And you're going to get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Amazing. We'll also take your lock it up. Make sure you put it in the chat after, of course, you've hit that thumbs up button and subscribed here to the Awesemo Odds channel. So I'm looking at this tonight. I hate the line. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I want nothing to do with 7.5 because I don't know anything about Cincinnati, like you said, about how sustainable their success can be, but I also know how bad Jacksonville can be. Let's set that aside. I want to go back to what you said about the live play. This is where I think we got in with Green Bay, Detroit. We got in live, where if, in fact, there is no score halfway or the entire first quarter, or the Jags squeeze a field goal out and they're up maybe 3-0 at the end of 1, that's going to dip below 7. And that's really all I need. Like I can live with Cincinnati tonight on a live play -6.5, which I think I'll need them to basically not show up in the first quarter in order to get.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I tend to take the same strategy as I mentioned the other way. If I think Jacksonville has the ability to hang in some games, maybe that they shouldn't, or even just in the fact that they might start slow or look bad at times because they're not a good team, as I keep saying, and I'm going to probably say it 5 more times during the show because there's nothing else to say about this team. So, I mean, they have nothing going on. But when you're talking about a Cincinnati team, I don't know if they have, I'm not going to say a killer instinct, but it's just not a team that I really think is built. You know, they looked good against Pittsburgh, but I think Pittsburgh got serious issues. They won a very fortunate game against Minnesota, and they lost to Chicago, where Burrow was absolutely terrible with multiple picks. So again, there's more questions than answers with both of these teams. I think live lines, the 7.5 to me feels about right. I think Cincinnati's in play in Survivor because I do think they're ultimately going to win the game, but I'd probably rather wait on the spread. What are you doing with the total, though? 45.5.
I'm glad you asked, my friend, because it's the return of the narrative here.
Ah, Jesus.
Now, I'll tell you what I see happening. This is the game flow that I'm prepared to bet pre-flop, of course. I think there are 2 lines of thinking, 2 schools of thought with this football game. One is that short week. It's Jacksonville. You're at home. You had a huge victory, franchise victory that you're coming off last week. It's reasonable to expect a letdown. I don't look at it that way. I actually look at it the opposite. Now, look, there's going to be a letdown in this game, but it's a matter of getting ahead of when the letdown happens. I think conventional thinking is the letdown happens in the first half for Cincinnati. They wake up like we saw Arizona did last week. For me, I think this is a first-round knockout. I think Cincinnati comes in and tries to effectively end this football game in the first quarter and a half. So, in fact, what I'm going to do here, Ben, is create a little window. I'm going to go over 23 points in the first half because I think that's where Cincinnati does the majority of their damage, and play the total under 45.5 as a whole because I think things slow down significantly. And I just don't trust Jacksonville's offense to put up a lot of points, even when Cincinnati gets a little soft on D. So I'm going to go over 23 first half points and under 45.5 total points.
So what I would say there, I totally get that. I don't mind if you think it starts fast. I would probably recommend potentially waiting on the 45.5 because if you get the over 23.5 right, the line on the live line is gonna jump up. So you'll get better than 45.5 if you want to buy back, in the sense that you say, okay, quick start, and then the pace slows a little bit. You could find maybe 48, depending on how many points are scored. So that's one strategy to consider: fast start. Then you put in your second bet live and you actually get a better number.
Yeah, it's dropped already a half point. I know when we were putting this together earlier, it was at 46. BetMGM has it now down to 45.5. I can't imagine it would drop below 45 by kick. It might go up to 46. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking at skating by. You know, I could see a 17-7 first half for Cincinnati, where I'm skating by that 23. I'm not looking at 30 first half points. Now, to your point, if I got that, I probably would then have to stay and live bet the under, because if I got 30 first half points, I mean, that total's probably up to 54. Something
exactly.
Like right.
So you're going to steal potentially, 8 to 10 points on that line if that's how you're looking to go. Now, again, the other
I like the under as a whole, though.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, instead of getting it, say there's 30 points scored in the first half, then your margin is you're sweating under 15.5 points for the second half. But if you wait to put in that bet, you're probably going to have 20 to 24 points to work with on that live line for the second half. So there's just a little more room. You also get the luxury of saying, you know what, I don't like what I see. I'm going to just not put it in. You have more flexibility in that regard.
John Shelton on the chat, the only thing I'm doing with this game is throwing it in a teaser over 39.5. Wow. I just, I'm so concerned about Jacksonville putting up 3-6 points. Like it's just their offense. They have guys from a DFS standpoint, from a receiver standpoint, that makes sense. But my God, Ben, this offense is awful. Awful.
Yes, it's very, very bad.
I don't know if I can get 40 points from Cincinnati on this defense.
No, you're not getting 40 points. That would be, God, if that happens, they should just get rid of Jacksonville altogether. I want to see, and I don't know if this is the game that's going to tell us, but so far this year, Cincinnati's defense has actually been really good. They're top 5 in opponents' yards per pass attempt and rush attempt. They've been fantastic. So I think it's partly a product of who they've played. I mean, when you look at the offenses, Pittsburgh is a mess. Chicago is a mess. And Minnesota moved the ball, pretty reasonably. So when they get up against more prolific teams, I think they will struggle. But so far, there's a reasonable question to ask. Is Cincinnati's defense actually way better than people thought?
Well, don't you then defer to what we've already seen? Like, I know variance plays a role in a lot of what we do here, but the one constant is their defense so far. Their offense has played well too, but younger players that, especially with Joe Burrow having to overcome, a slow start. Isn't that something that got it? Isn't that something that, I've just been talking all day. This is my 4th show today. So my voice is shooting. It's shot, but don't worry. I just cleared it. So it's fine here. But isn't that one of the few constants that you can rely on here, is that Cincinnati's defense has looked sharp against much better opponents. Why would they let down against Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think the question is, are they much better opponents offensively? I don't know if Chicago or Pittsburgh's any better than Jacksonville's offense at this point. I mean, they make mistakes, but
they got Dalton, right? Oh, no, Fields. You're right. They had Fields.
Yeah,
I saw
it. Was they've just, it's been bad. Right. So I look at that. Jacksonville's got some pieces. They've got some playmakers on the outside. I do think the key, and it kind of goes into player props a little bit. If you want to go there, we got James Robinson attempts on the ground. He had 5 in week 1, 11 in week 2. He had 15 carries for 88 yards against Arizona. And I think they're clearly realizing they got to get this guy the ball. He also had 6 targets that resulted in 6 catches for another 46. So I think if Jacksonville has any success tonight, James Robinson's got to be busy. They need to balance it out. You can't have Lawrence dropping back 50 times.
I like that. Do you think, though, that there is a commitment to Robinson following 1 week, or do you think that Urban Meyer can't help himself and continues to balance unnecessarily, I would add, because Robinson deserves the workload by all means. But I don't know. It's just these variables in Jacksonville. Like, you're a shit team for a reason, right? Because you make bad decisions week in and week out.
Yeah, that's why they're Jacksonville. I do think that Robinson will be involved. How much of it's on the ground, I really don't know. The longer, and I think the more carries he gets, certainly the higher chance Jacksonville has to cover. His receptions prop is only 3.5, though. I think that's a pretty good number at -105 to the over. Like I said, 6 targets resulted in 6 catches last week. He had 6 targets in week 1. I don't know why Lawrence wouldn't look to him more. They're easy throws, low interception probability. And if there's one thing we know about Jacksonville, they have to limit the turnovers because they've just been absolutely awful all year already.
So you like Robinson over in that regard?
Over 3.5 catches at -105, I think is more than reasonable. If they fall behind, he's going to be involved. If not, you have to think that he'll still be getting a lot of touches. Maybe they're more carries, but it's still a prolific pass catcher who can be very dynamic.
Our friend Chris G on the chat suggesting James Robinson over 100 yards. That is a risk, my friend, that I am just not willing to take tonight.
I mean, obviously James Robinson's props are nowhere near 100. So you're going to have, opportunities. His rushing prop is 51.5. His receiving prop is 23.5.
Right. But you can get him to go over 100 specifically.
For sure. But you're going to be getting, to go over 100 rushing yards is plus 575.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a massive payoff if that's something that you're thinking. I think that I'd be more prone to just take the 51.5 and hope that Jacksonville keeps it close.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to put a unit on that. If you wanted me to put a quarter unit or something just to spread.
Yeah, I'm not doing that either. But, 51.5 seems at least playable in my opinion.
I agree. And if you're going to play anything outside of your prop with Robinson catching the football, then I think that would be the way to go, especially if we're looking at, and if people agree that there's going to be a setback or there's going to be malaise or there's just going to be this slow start from Cincinnati. I am concerned just how effective Jacksonville can run the football before they find themselves down 10, 13, et cetera, and then try to abandon. But let me throw one here at you, and I'm going to give our site a little shout here because these are the top 2 for passing yards. These are our top 2 on the Awesemo betting player prop tool. The top 2 expected win percentages, and they happen to be tonight. Jacksonville's Lawrence is 73% of return on the under. Burrow is 72% return on the over. So if you were looking at what we have as far as a pretty good difference between the projection line and what we have there, the prop line and what we have projected, both of those quarterbacks under Lawrence, over Burrow for passing yards jumped out at me and using our player props tool as a guide there. Doesn't mean that we get it right. I mean, we say 73%, 72% respectively. There's room for error there. But outside of Jacoby Brissett, who's got such a ridiculously low number at 207.5, those 2 jumped out tonight.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that speaks to potentially Cincinnati's secondary actually being pretty good. And then when you look on the other side, Jacksonville, they're allowing 9 yards per pass attempt. That's 30th in the league so far. They're down there with the Lions. Very, very bad. I don't see any reason that's going to be good. I know Higgins is out, but I don't even think that honestly matters. Cincinnati's got plenty of pass catchers. They've got Boyd, they've got Chase, who we're going to talk about, and certainly Mixon on the ground. So I think Burrow could be busy. You need to run somewhat hot in the sense that if, say, Lawrence is like devastatingly bad and Cincinnati's defense is churning it out, maybe they gear down Burrow, but I think that's pretty unlikely. So I have no problem with that. I think of the 2, I would rather go over on Burrow than under on Lawrence.
Bryce Irwin on the chat. Jacksonville by 10.
That is a hot take.
Now, I mean, think about this. Let's say this out loud here. A team has lost 18 straight games dating back to last year. They are going to snap. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to snap an 18-game losing streak on a short week on the road against the Cincinnati football team. Like, does that even compute in your brain?
I mean, the Cincinnati part does. If there's one franchise to screw it up, it would probably be them. Yeah,
I thought it would be the Jets or and they couldn't even do that against Houston, Russ.
Yeah, the Houston part is a really bad data point because I think if this was, say, week 3 and week 1 didn't exist, I would really be advocating that the Jaguars have played some pretty decent teams. I mean, now we're going to see them maybe against not bad competition, but a step down. But when you get rolled by Houston, I do think, though, we maybe could step back and say maybe Houston's not that bad because Tyrod Taylor really stabilize them. This new Houston team is a totally different, non-functioning offense with Davis Mills. We saw that last Thursday against Carolina. So I don't want to just label it there. I don't think Jacksonville's winning this game by 10, obviously. But
Right.
if you do, you're certainly going to be splashing on their money line, and you're going to be getting, obviously, very nice plus money on something like that.
Hit that thumbs up button and make sure you're subscribed here to the Awesemo Odds channel as we bring you the Awesemo betting show Monday, Thursday, Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Pete and Rasa on Sunday mornings at 9 as it's a gigantic show getting you ready for all the action on Sunday. But we bounce around. We'll give you your lock it up as we'll give it to you before we get out of here. All right, let's swing it back to you. Another player prop that you're looking at tonight, Ben.
All right. This is one, Chad, I may only bet one or two of these a year. It's not something I really look at. It's certainly not something I project in my, with my personal betting but this is an exception to the rule. Jamar Chase tonight, his longest reception prop. That is something, again, I don't really look at it. It was 24.5 yesterday and I bet it. It's now 25.5 and it's minus 120. I still would bet it. I think that he goes over that. I think this is a really, really nice spot that no one's paying attention to. Jamar Chase, 3 games. First of all, he's got 4 touchdowns, which is just ridiculous.
Yes.
But he has a 34-yard catch, a 42-yard catch, and a 50-yard catch. So he's doing this every game. Jacksonville generates no pressure whatsoever. So there's limited chance that, someone like Burrow isn't going to have time to take those shots. He should have a clean pocket. Jamar Chase is obviously a burner, and he should be able to get over the top of an awful Jaguars secondary. Then T. Higgins isn't there. So you have Boyd, but Boyd is more of a slot underneath threat. I think this clears the deck for Jamar Chase to clearly be a focal point of the offense. And he's the type of player. He's not going to be a target monster. He has 7, 4, and 5 targets in the first 3 weeks. But when he connects, he's kind of got that type of gear. So over 25.5 tonight, I think this is a really, really good spot, a sneaky spot. Jamar Chase, even if he doesn't have a huge game, I think his limited amount of catches would still result in one long one.
This is like the rich man's example of Quez Watkins that we gave over the weekend, right? I think it was last week or heading into, Monday night. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That game is a distant memory.
Yeah, nice showing by your boys.
Hey, I told you to go over, did I not?
Yeah, no, my side was, they didn't even try to run anybody, including Jalen Hurts. I don't really understand.
Oh, and
we don't want to
gave
rehash
Zach
that,
Ertz
though.
anytime TD. Come on,
Yes.
Rasha.
That saved us.
Let's pat ourselves on the back when we can. I don't know how long this is going to last by any means. No, I think that, and I go back to Quez because this is now the second time, and it's there. Where why take a shot? I think it's 70 some odd receiving yards for Chase tonight. Why take a shot on that on a higher number when the reality is that he's got a far better chance of breaking one to where he could get a 30, 35 yard grab and still come under that receiving yard number, right? Like it's way more. And I just look at this. I think it's way more likely that Chase gets you a big play and falls short of that receiving yards total than him getting 80 receiving yards with no play over 10 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Chase has had an ADOT at times north of 20 in some of these games. Like he is someone that they want to get the ball down the field. That's what he does. That's what he did in college. He happened to go to LSU with Joe Burrow. I don't think it's a coincidence that they already have chemistry. And again, it's 3 games, but it doesn't lie. When this guy's effective, he's catching deep balls down the field. And against the Jacksonville team, the easiest way to mitigate that is don't give the quarterback time. Because if you don't have time, you have to dump it off to Mixon. You have to hit Boyd on the slant. Jacksonville generates no pressure. So Burrow will have ample time and Jamar Chase will have ample opportunities. I will clearly take that at minus 120. I like that. It's probably my favorite prop on the board tonight.
One more for me here, and it's already moved up a yard. I was just talking about this on the midday show I was doing about Trevor Lawrence and his rushing total. So I was looking at MGM about an hour ago, Ben, and it was sitting at 15.5 rushing yards. It's now bumped up to 16.5. Now, it was even juiced at 16.5 to minus 120. It's now back to minus 115 a pop. Outside of week 1, where he didn't do anything, he's gone over 20 rushing yards 2 straight weeks. He moves. Even if he's running for his life, He's moving. He's capable of moving around. It stands to reason that Jacksonville's going to be down and needing to throw the football more than running. So I like, even at 16.5, if I can get to 17, 18 as a floor tonight, I don't mind laying the 115 on a guy who has shown, even in games where they've been beat and beat up, he can get you 20 plus yards on the ground for 2 straight weeks. I like that trend to continue. So I'll go over 16.5 yards for Lawrence tonight on the ground.
No, you will. Yeah, I mean, listen, Trevor Lawrence is someone at Clemson. That was a part of his game. He's a mobile guy. I'm interested to see where that develops, because last week was the first week where it looked like they were able to get him some carries kind of almost designed. The first 2 weeks, he did nothing against Houston. Against Denver, he had a couple long scrambles, but they were not. Yeah, that's all you need. And you have that out. But obviously, if you get 2 to 3 designed runs for a guy, that takes the pressure off immensely. And Lawrence has that ability. I'm not saying he's Daniel Jones or Jalen Hurts or anyone in that category, but he's not a flat 0 in the rushing game. Like Burrow on the other side, his is at 8.5. If I had to bet that, I would go under. I think there's a very real chance Burrow has 0 attempts. They don't want to run him at all, of course, coming off major surgery. He's in the Dak Prescott. I think they only run him in emergencies at best. I would be stunned if he has a lot of carries tonight.
As you know, we get out of here each and every show with a lock it up where we'll try and jam as much as we can. The jackpot is returning tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
So wait for that one here. Kickstart DFS on the chat, locking up Carlos Hyde, anytime TD scorer. And I'm looking at the return there, plus 275. Now, I don't want to sound greedy by any means, but for a second string running back on Jacksonville, I'd like that to be somewhere around 350 to place a bet.
So I think you have the out of, and not that you're drawing solely to this, pass interference in the end zone, I think is probably the best chance, because he's the type, no joke, because he's the type of guy, if they get to the 1 yard line, I think it will be him.
Okay.
So you do have stuff like that. I don't know, Carlos Hyde is, I don't know. It's tough with them. I want to see what they do with the commitment to running the ball. I get where that logic's going. If you think Carlos Hyde gets in the end zone, that once again, I think helps potentially the under, and certainly helps Jacksonville, because they're not going to be running him if they're really far behind.
Can I say that I'm excited for this football game tonight, knowing it's going to be bad and dog shit, because we have betting components alongside of it. And we've gone 2 straight days, no maction or anything like that. Like, football is back. Well, I have a little college lock it up that I'm going to throw in here as well. But we've got football back. I don't care if it's Jacksonville and Cincinnati. I'm excited for tonight.
I can't wait. I mean, people know I'm deranged. I like games like this. Like I would rather watch this than Rams, Bucks. Who needs that? Give me Jacksonville, Cincy.
Well, as we said, the live line moves a lot more favorable to us in games like this than it does in those games you referenced, like Tampa and the Rams.
Again, and I think there's opportunities with these bad teams to exploit what they want to do. Jacksonville will still move the ball tonight. Certainly Cincinnati, I think we all know, is going to move the ball tonight. You can really key on some playmakers. You can look for some live opportunities, because there's going to be ebbs and flows within this game that are exploitable on the side and total side, and certainly on the player prop side. I think we both are saying there's some good player props to take advantage of tonight.
All right, let's lock it up here on the way out. We appreciate you, Sam, and everybody else here on the chat for being a part of this show. We don't ask much. Just hit that thumbs up button, please, and really make sure you're subscribed to what we're doing here on the Awesemo Odds channel. In return, we're going to give you a risk-free bet at BetMGM up to $1,000. Use our promo code Awesemo and bet $10 on BetMGM, and we'll give you three free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum, not just Plus Platinum. Yes, Philip Black, that is the best bet by all means.
That's a lot.
Smash the like button. Yes, you'll never lose. We promise you. That is one of those everyone wins bets. All right, man, I'm going to squeeze 2 in really quick. All right. It's moved up a full point since I put it down here. It's at 62.5. I'm just going to throw it out here. I'm going to go over. Miami's passing game is starting to come alive. This kid on Virginia has gone over 400 yards the last 2 games. Let down on the total against Wake. I think they bounce back. I'm going to go over 62.5 now.
So you're going to the college streets. A little,
I have a pro prop. I have a pro prop that I cannot ignore, because I don't think we're going to get this value come tomorrow's show. So I'm going to break the rules and sneak 2 lock it ups in real quick. The first one tonight is the one I feel confident about the most going over 62.5, mainly because I think UVA bounces back from not scoring against Wake. So I just wanted to throw that out there really quick. I know this is your world, your turf, betting you and Matt Kajeski each and every Wednesday it drops. So any quick thoughts on that?
So I think what you need to do in college tonight is keep an eye on it. It looks like De'Ara King is going to be out. I think he's probably sitting. The other quarterback for Miami's hurt. They are starting a creative player. He's threw 3 touchdowns against Central Connecticut, but Central Connecticut is not, that's not a FCS school. So, they're just not a real team either. I hate to say it, but keep an eye on that. Virginia's going to move the ball. There's no doubt about it. It's just, what does Miami give you at this point? I think that's a mystery that we're all trying to decipher. So De'Ara King is the key. I think he's going to end up sitting.
I do too. I might get 50 from Virginia tonight.
It could be back and forth. Certainly Wake dismantled them. I think people are leaning Virginia tonight, and I get that. I may have a play in our premium Slack. Haven't bet the game just yet.
Okay. Now, this is the one I love. Before you cleanse the palate and give us with something to really think about tonight to lock it up, this is what I love, and it's just because of value. All right? This is a circumstantial bet because of the value. It's already dropped from plus 205 to plus 195 on BetMGM. But I'm sorry, if I'm looking at a 2-to-1 return for Aaron Rodgers to only throw 1 interception, this is an overreactionary number because he's gone 2 straight weeks without throwing one. It's circumstance. It's a Hail Mary at the end of the first half. It's a tipped ball. It's getting sacked as the ball's coming out. There's so many different areas and elements, avenues to a path to success, where if I see something at plus 195 to plus 205 and all I need is 1, I'm going to throw a unit on this. Again, if this is plus 150, Ben, I don't bet it. If it's plus 195 to plus 200, it's hard for me, A, because I think like the Pollard prop, which granted didn't hit, but still dropped significantly. I think this drops significantly as we get closer to kick. So I'm going to jump in Rodgers over a half interception. That's the big lock it up tonight.
Wow, that'll be an interesting one. Okay. I mean, listen, he's quite good at times, but you never know. Tip ball, something like that. Aggressive defense. We'll see. We'll revisit that tomorrow. We'll see where the line goes. Hopefully you steal some value. Okay, my lock it up. Here we go. I'm going to kind of do what you did, but I've talked about this. I already said it's my favorite prop. Jamar Chase, longest reception over. I really like that. I also think if you want to take a risk and take a sprinkle, Jamar Chase first touchdown of this game. 8-1. I think there's a real chance that Cincinnati certainly is probably more likely to score first. If it's not Mixon on the ground, I think it's Chase over the top. I really don't think the Jaguars secondary is built to handle this. So if they give Burrow protection, I know I've said it 3 times, I believe they will. Jamar Chase is going to have opportunities. And at 8-1, I mean, you're talking about a very small allocation to potentially have a more than a free roll tonight. And so if he gets that, it'll also probably cash the longest completion in that play because I'm envisioning Chase over the top for that touchdown.
Love it. Make sure you're following along at JazzRazDFS for Ben on Twitter. I'm at Shander Show. Thanks, Jordan, and thank him in the chat. Best way to thank Jordan is to make sure you're subscribed. He loves it when you are subscribed to this channel and you hit that thumbs up button. We didn't have a belligerent bet. We need to make that a weekly thing, a belligerent bet from Jordan. Like he does entire life stakes on Dak Prescott going under that rushing yard. Maybe we'll get one in on like Twitter or the chat if he's popping around tomorrow. All right, brother. Appreciate it as always. And we're back again tomorrow, 1:00 Eastern. You ready?
Can't wait. Talk a little more NFL, talk a little college football on the way out. So for everyone here and for BetMGM, good luck tonight. Talk to you guys tomorrow.